How many birds do you think you've seen twice? Greetings gamers and welcome back to Top 10 Gaming. I'm your host Carl Monroe, and things may look a little different because I'm still recording from home. The province of Ontario got put into lockdown, so we all need to stay home. However, we are still pumping out that content for you while we have to do so. So be sure you subscribe so you get more quarantine content and ring that bell to join the clan and level up. FNAF has a lot of fan games, and while most of them are just the same game with different skins, some in particular made a real impact on the community. So, which ones did I miss last time? That's what we're exploring with today's list of the top 10 best FNAF fan games, part 2. Roll the intro. 10, Five Nights at Krusty Krab. Mr. Krabs just opened a brand new Krusty Krab location in the city. Gotta love Mr. Krabs with that hustle. Go man, make the Krusty Krab a franchise. However, the location is staffed completely by animatronic versions of old employees. I guess it was cheaper than paying them. You're hired as the night watchman at this location. However, strange things begin to happen when the lights dim, and you find yourself in a bit more trouble than you had originally anticipated. I've talked about this game's sequel Five Nights at Chumbucket before, and the full release version of Five Nights at Krusty Krab has one hell of a game. This game includes animatronic versions of SpongeBob, Squidward, Patrick, Sandy, Mr. Krabs, and while they may not all be employees of the Krusty Krab, they were at one point. Also, it turns out that the Krusty Krab pizza is the pizza for you and me, because there are plenty of pizza boxes scattered all around the facility. But that also means that Robot SpongeBob isn't doing his job, but again, that's strangely normal for SpongeBob robots. Does anyone remember the one Plankton built? In the end, everyone forgets about the restaurant, aside from the one who came for revenge. But you'll have to play it to figure out who it is and what they did. In a 9, Five Nights at Minecraft map. This Minecraft map is a full recreation of the first 5 FNAF game maps. The FNAF locations are here, including Sister Location and the FNAF 4 house. However, the FNAF 6 location is not done. The map includes texture packs for all the locations featured, making sure you are able to see the different animatronics, and they even include some Easter eggs. Some of which are weird, like the one called No Poop, but others are interesting and would have lore implications, like the puppet being in the FNAF 1 location, among others. The maps, in all honesty, are extremely well constructed, except for the FNAF 4 house. I don't think that's how the house would have been laid out. I mean, we don't even see the wonderful hallways with the grandfather clock. I think it may have been more so based on the layout from the mini games, but I mean, that might be wrong. The ability to free roam is something that I think we would all enjoy in a FNAF game, especially if it was a working pizzeria and not just one filled with spooks. Like, I'm telling you, William Afton Simulator. Let me kill kids in a working pizza place. Please, Chuck E. Cheese won't let me back. Implying I'm a murderer. And it ain't One Night at Flumpty's too. Once again, Flumpty, Bumpty, and his pals have kidnapped you, a presumably innocent civilian, to play a game of survival hide-and-seek. The rules are simple. Make it until 6 AM and you and Flumpty become besties. If someone catches you, they'll give you a brand new face. However, there are some rules, like any regulation game of hide-and-seek, but you only learn them as the night goes on. You only have a light switch, a computer with a limited battery, and a switch to close the vents, but you can only close one at a time. Can you survive against Flumpty Bumpty and his merry crew of Birthday Boy Blam, the Red Man, Eyesore, Grunkfuss the Clown, the Beaver, Golden Flumpty? They all make an appearance. But this time there is an added threat of Champ and Chump, horrifying, bloody and fleshy creatures with no arms and bloodshot eyes. They're the size of about the mini-renas. Basically, it's a mini-rena with muscle fibers and blood covering the body without the arms. Yeah, it's creepy. In its 7-weekend demo, he knows you're in here. He remembers you. Shadows of the distant past will drive you insane, just like they did to him. Greetings, I'm glad you've chosen to work here at Purple Shore's warehouse. Your job as a security guard here will likely be a fairly easy one. The game is only a demo and the full release has been in production for over 4 years, so I'm assuming it's going to be staying that way. Don't get me wrong, games take a long time to make, but if it's a fan game, it shouldn't be in production for so long, especially when the last update to the demo was over 2 years ago. Yeah, I mean, the game itself is scary as hell, however, with more cameras and even more locations to find these animatronics. You'll be confused as hell as to where they're coming from, which is probably not a good thing, and you should look to your right because there's a door that the animatronics keep coming through, just like move your mouse. Yeah, that took Markiplier an unreasonable amount of time to figure out. But I mean, if you haven't played, how are you supposed to know? Flashback to your comments on the Lasagna Boy gameplay, and I literally had to like search up what I was supposed to do in that video, and then we just had to cut back to when I had figured it out, like controlling the missiles. Yeah, I had to look it up, and I wouldn't be surprised if Markiplier had to look it up too. And at 6, Five Nights at Candy's 3. FNAF 3 was intended to be the ending to the FNAF series, until, like Springtrap and Scott Cawthon, it came back with FNAF 4. However, unlike FNAF 3, FNAF 3 was actually the beginning of the story as well as the end, since it was a prequel to Five Nights at Candy's 1. While yes, the animatronics and jump scares will give you a fright, the real meat of this game comes from the minigames and cutscenes you get that really beef up the lore and give not only the game, but the whole series context as a whole. However, you will truly be horrified when you see these animatronics. Old Candy, the Rat, Vinny, Shadow Candy, Candy the Cat, Monster Vinny, Origami Cat, Lollipop. The whole game is extremely well made, and it really shows why this series is so popular, and why it's one of the most popular FNAF fan games to date. If FNAF wasn't over and it was going to get a sequel, what would you like to see? I personally would like to see a VR, but I understand that it's hard to do that with like a fan game. These animatronics in VR would just be horrifying. The Rat is by far one of the scariest animatronics I've seen in this game, and if it was not for the Reaper puppet from Final Nights, it would be the scariest game. Speaking of Final Nights, halfway through at number 5, Final Nights 4, Fates Entwined. Final Nights 4 is the final game in the Final Nights series. Unlike previous games in the series, the game plays like a puzzle point-and-click experience, where you adventure around the original Fredbear family diner from two different perspectives, one in 1973 and one in 2017 before the events of Final Nights 3. In 1973, you play as Henry Stillwater, and working together with Acton Robotics, you make a restaurant that the whole family can enjoy. However, after your night guard doesn't show up, you are forced to do the job yourself. It's only now that you see the truth behind what these robots are doing, and this has to mean something, right? One does not drop casual references to 1973 in a Five Nights at Freddy's fan game without it meaning something important. In 2017, you play as Max Donovan, a paranormal investigator who got an anonymous tip about the disappearance of none other than Henry Stillwater. You go to the abandoned Fredbear location to find out the truth, unaware of the thing rotting and restless inside. And at 4, Fazbear's Fright. Long after Freddy Fazbear's Pizza closed down, Fun Frights Inc. created a horror attraction built to show off the tragic history of Fazbear Entertainment. Rude. Old diner locations have been searched for props, in which it appears that they have all been fixed up for some sort of Halloween-themed area. The location is nearly ready to open. Be sure you get your tickets now. You play in the original Freddy Fazbear location, where you now have more threats than ever before, employee combinations on the keypad, vents to keep you on your toes, and so many animatronics that you'll lose your mind even more. This is not to be confused with Fazbear Fright from the third FNAF game. This is an entirely separate company that is essentially making a museum dedicated to Freddy Fazbear and the tragic events that occurred, which is rude. Hella rude. Maybe this is why they needed to get their reputation back in Hell Wanted. Sure, it's because of Scott, but also because companies like Fun Frights Inc. make jokes about their tragic history too. Also, I know that it's not technically Scott in the games, but like, the character he's playing hasn't been named yet, so I'm gonna keep calling him Scott until he gets named. And at 3, Fredbear and Friends Reboot. Are you crazy? Are you daring? Are you looking for thrills in places nobody else will go? Well, if that sounds like you, Fredbear and Friends Reboot is gonna tickle your fancy like a dove feather, because even though Freddy's has been closed for 26 years, the building has been abandoned ever since. The place that once brought joy and happiness is now growing vines and smells like rot. Kinda like my ex. So what should you do? Meet up with your friends and investigate, of course. The thing is, plans aren't always executed properly. As the great Leonard Snart said, make the plan, execute the plan, expect the plan to go off the rails, and throw away the plan. This fully free-roam game has all the jump scares you could want, combined with high-quality visuals, voice acting, cutscenes, and game mechanics that will make you truly feel like you're experiencing the situation. Even if you should be able to close the door on Springtrap, but instead you have to hide under the desk. Yeah, that part is confusing, and so are a couple others, but other than that, it's a fantastic game. It's funny when you walk into a room and then see your friend being chased by Springtrap. I mean, it's scary. Penultimately, in at number 2, Jolly 3. This is a unique game in the way it's presented. All these games are unique, and something can't be especially unique because being unique means that you are one of a kind and you can't be especially one of a kind. But anyway, this game presents itself in 2 chapters, each of them basically being their own game. Chapter 1 is very reminiscent of Sister Location, with more complicated game mechanics and the feeling of being scooped, but Chapter 2 has more of an original FNAF feel. Each chapter has between-night mini-games that help break up the monotony of gameplay, and keeps you on your toes to make sure you don't get too good at the cycle of just like hitting the buttons, you know? It breaks the cycle. You're welcome. If you get it, you get it. The jump scares seemingly come from nowhere, and oh yeah, it turns out this game's characters and name are based on a Filipino version of Denny's called Jubilee. Yeah, a freaking bee animatronic. Anyone allergic to bees, honey, or pollen better get the hell out of here. And I'm allergic to pollen, so Next number. Finally, in at number 1, Baby's Nightmare Circus. When first playing, Baby's Nightmare Circus will remind you of FNAF 4, and for very good reasons. Because of Baby being used, since you know she scooped Michael Afton's sister up, and due to the similar looking title screen and the way you move around the circus being essentially the same as FNAF 4, you look at the ground and then you run, which is how I run everywhere. Oh, and the jump scares will make you lose your mind. The Nightmare Ballora is one of the most confusing things I have ever seen. Like, should I be scared? Should I be aroused? Why am I aroused? Is looking at this thing wrong? Why is she so thick? Should I be concerned with my well-being? There we have it, friends, the top 10 best FNAF fan games part 2. Have you played any of these games, and which ones have you played that I haven't mentioned yet? Be sure you let me know below, and on your way down, be sure you hit like and subscribe for more daily gaming content and ring that bell to join the clan and level up. Thank you all so much for watching. I have been and shall remain Connor Monroe, and I'll see you in another video.